to get better rates and more stable rates and more renewable content in our electricity supply than is offered by Orange and Rockland. So it's essentially a negotiating strategy. We've been working with many municipalities in Orange and Rockland territory, as well as in Central Hudson service territory on the other side of the river, for about 8 or 9 years now on programs like this. There's a group in Rockland. There's some in Orange too, but there's a large group in Rockland County that is now on the second or third community choice aggregation contract. They've seen savings there, and we'd expect similar results here in Tuxedo and Tuxedo Park. The village is also at the same point that the town is in. And basically the point in the process that we're at right now is that we have issued an RFP to the electricity suppliers. We've gotten back some indicative pricing, as well as some initial proposals from 3 preferred suppliers. So that's good. There's good competition around this bid. We'll get final pricing beginning on April 11th. And the reason that there's multiple pricing rounds is because electricity pricing, like many commodity markets, it changes. It actually changes every 5 minutes, but it changes by the minute, by the hour, by the day. So the price quotes that we get, they sort of expire very quickly after we get them. So this is why we do it this way, where there's sort of 2 rounds. We get indicative pricing, then we come to a meeting like this. There was also a webinar that I think some of you attended last week to discuss that pricing and to talk a little bit about the process. Then we have this discussion as you're having tonight about an MOU, and what the MOU does is it allows the board to discuss, and B, it authorizes the supervisor to take advantage of that pricing should pricing come in on April 11th or thereafter that meets the town's criteria, to be able to move quickly and award the RFP before that electricity pricing expires at the end of day. So that's why there's this kind of staggered process around this particular type of RFP. The MOU does a couple of other things. It establishes some pricing benchmarks. You'll see in there's pricing around 3 different products. One is a conventional or fossil fuel-based product, and that's very similar in terms of sourcing to what you get from ORU. The big difference there is that the CCA pricing is stabilized. It's fixed pricing. With Orange and Rockland, it's a monthly variable. That means each month it's anybody's guess, frankly, what that price will be. It's driven by a number of factors, and frankly, most of them are unknown to the consumer or to anybody. With the community choice aggregation offers, they are fully fixed, so that means it's the same price every single month, so you know what you're getting into. There is a 50% New York State renewable offer, and then there is a 100% New York State renewable offer. Each of those 3 comes at a different price point, so as you go up the scale with more renewables, it comes at a little bit of a higher price. The municipality, the town's job is to select which one is the quote-unquote default, right? So we're recommending the 50% renewable, but that's at your discretion. And what that means is that this is an automatic enrollment program. That means that if the town goes ahead and awards the RFP, that any eligible customer that doesn't choose to opt out will be enrolled, right? So it's actually a very important decision which offering will be the default, because if they don't choose, then they'll be automatically enrolled in the offering that the town chooses as default. However, it is always the end consumer, the individual household or small businesses' choice, whether to participate at all, and there's never any fees or charges for leaving the program or for coming back in, and B, which of those 3 they would like to enroll in. Now, the one caveat there is that New York State has said for a fossil fuel product, the CCA price must be lower than 5% above the average of the previous year for Orange and Rockland prices. So in New York State, we don't have any future visibility into what utility prices are. So they say it has to beat what it was for the previous year. For the renewable products, though, they're considered premium or enhanced products, and there is no such mandate there. So that's the only catch. And the MOU also pre-approves the form of the contract, so that way if you choose to award the RFP and go ahead, you've already sort of done that pre-approval. Again, all of that is in an effort to streamline the process such that when those prices come in and we're going to ask you for a sort of quick decision, you've already had a chance in this setting to discuss it and to authorize the supervisor to go ahead and award. So that's really the basic skinny. I'll leave it there. I don't want to take too much time on that because I'm happy to answer any questions that you have and stay, as long as you like to discuss. But that's the basic primer on the process and the program.
Okay, thank you for that.
I have a question, but I don't want to.
Go ahead.
So Glenn, this process started about 2 years ago, maybe a little bit more actually, when the town passed the law allowing this to happen. Can you explain why we're still in this process and it hasn't been resolved yet?
Yeah, so this is we've been in, it usually doesn't take that long, of course. You joined at a time where the town passed the law at a time where we've been in really for the last 2 years, we've been in periods of historic market volatility. And that's largely, not completely, but largely driven by the Russian invasion in Ukraine. So as you guys know, when Russia invaded Ukraine, it had a dramatic impact on natural gas markets around the world, not just here, but around the world. And gas prices ran up. And when gas prices run up, it also drives the price of wholesale electricity up as well. So even renewable electricity goes up because the whole wholesale market goes up, and it's been incredibly volatile since. So we haven't seen a real market opportunity to date, where we don't advise the town to go ahead unless we really see an opportunity to lock in. And when you're in a period of really high volatility, when you're asking for a fixed price offer, there's a lot of risk that the suppliers see in the market because they don't know if the market's going up or down, right? So that means that they're going to inflate prices somewhat artificially because of that volatility. So to date, we haven't advised moving ahead, but really in the last 3-4 months, prices have stabilized a lot more. If you just look at the price curves, even for Orange and Rockland, you'll see this kind of really jagged EKG sort of line for about 1.5 years, and then the last, again, 3, 4, 5 months, you'll see a much more stable line. So now what we're seeing in terms of pricing is much more competitive and much more aligned with what we're seeing in the markets as well. So we're advising now to go ahead with this bid. Now, if we don't get final pricing, if we still don't get final pricing that we think really makes sense and will provide value for consumers, we'll still advise to hold off and not award. But we are at least seeing an opportunity here, and it actually is quite a good moment to fix rates because we're still in a market low right now, but all the forward curves are saying that by winter of next year that we're going to start seeing a real steep increase in pricing.
Okay, thank you for that explanation. I think it's important for everybody to kind of understand that we're
Yeah,
still doing
absolutely.
this because we're waiting for the best economic environment for us to get the best price for moving forward. And there's no
Exactly.
rush. It's timing and pricing.
Yep.
Okay.
And it just so happens that you started the process in this like period of 100-year historic volatility. Just but yeah.
All right, that makes sense then. Thank you for that explanation as well. Deirdre, any questions?
I do actually have a couple of questions. And these are questions that my neighbors have asked me, so just for
Good.
clarity. One question that was asked is, depending on which of these you actually choose, should you choose a conventional or should you choose 50% or 100%? Is the delivery charge from O&R affected at all by the selection that you pick?
No, so both the delivery charge and then also the physical delivery itself is still all Orange and Rockland. There's nothing, unfortunately, we can do about that. I was just looking at my bill. I live in Con Ed territory, but it's the same parent company. The delivery charge is off the charts. It's something like 17 cents. So, so this program only deals with the supply portion of the bill, meaning where does the energy come from? So that's the part we can control with community choice aggregation. We can choose where the energy comes from, meaning the source of it, renewable, non-renewable, etc. B, the price that we're willing to pay. C, the rate type, as I said, fixed versus variable. And D, and perhaps even most importantly, frankly, the terms under which we buy that electricity. So this is our contract. This is a contract that we have drafted and has been used and vetted by, I think, something like 65 municipal attorneys now. We've been doing this for close to 10 years in New York State. So it is a really bulletproof contract. And that's the great thing about having that leverage in the market, is that we're dictating the process. Our RFP, our contract, right? And when I say our, I mean, the municipalities, not the suppliers, where there might be hidden fees or surprise price increases and all of that. The contract itself is extraordinarily customer friendly and is really drafted with an eye towards protecting the municipality and protecting the consumer.
Okay, question number 2. So if in fact, after the terms of this particular contract come up and we face another environmental situation or a global situation where the cost of electricity is doing exactly what it did before.
Yeah.
What exactly would be the process be?
Yeah, so at the end of this contract, there's no auto rollover or anything like that. There's no tail to it. If it's a 24-month contract, say, after those 24 months, the town has all of the same options open. So what we would do is we would run another RFP. And if that RFP does not produce results, the contract will end. Everybody will go back to ORU. They'll be back where they started. There'll be there's no penalty or there's no harm, no foul there. There won't be an interruption in service whatsoever. So the town has all their options at the end of this contract. There's no clawback or anything like that.
Okay. I think that answers my question. Thank you.
I just want to point out one thing that wasn't clear to me until recently as well. In the MOU, it clearly states this is an electricity product, not a natural gas product. So it's only for that deliverable. What did we determine on the board that we were going to select it? I mean, we have 3 choices here. The village took the blended option, correct?
Right.
Yep.
You're recommending the blended option.
We are, yeah.
And
I just say, I don't want to interrupt your conversation, but I'll just say one thing about, we really see a lot of value in the renewable products, the 50 and the 100, not only because it gives greater access to customers to renewable energy, which New York State is really trying to move towards, but it also enables the town to get points for the NYSERDA Clean Energy Communities grant program. They have just recapitalized that program just this year with another $25 million. The grants are bigger than they ever have been. I don't know if you guys have participated in that before, but doing a renewable CCA gets you a lot of points. I think it's the most points of any action you can take. And what that means is if you choose a conventional product, you don't qualify for those points. If you do a 50 or 100, you do. So I just want to to point that out too, as you're discussing.
Thank you.
Michelle or Jim, what was your determining factor for selecting blended over renewal?
Well, we want to support renewable energy, right? That's sort of why we became, we passed the law,
Mhm.
set up the Climate Smart Community Task Force to achieve certification as a climate smart community so that we could get grants to lower our costs by upgrading our energy systems and going for more ways of
I'm assuming there's more points in the 100% renewable electric product.
There
right?
is more points, but we figured at this point, that with the first go round, it might be good to introduce residents at the
Mhm,
50% level, which will be sort of the middle
Okay.
price point. And people, well, one thing, because I don't know if he can hear me, because I don't have a
Oh,
mic.
yeah, sure, the microphone is.
Oh, thanks. One thing, Glenn, you could go over is the options people have to go up to 100% if they choose.
Yeah.
Just, the 50% is what the town is choosing as the default. That's what everybody will be,
Okay,
will
alright.
be enrolled in. But even though they're enrolled at the 50%, they have the options of opting up to 100% or opting out.
Okay, and is that going to be clear in the documentation to this?
Oh, yeah. In fact, the village, this afternoon asked, Hannah and Glenn to send the letters, a sample letter of what will go out to the residents, and
perfect.
it'll show all that.
Perfect. Rick Marsh, any questions for the panel?
No, I think everything's pretty much been answered. I like how it's come together over the last week or so. A lot of information has been pushed out to us so we could fully understand what's going on. And I believe after Monday, we'll know even more. So I appreciate all the work.
Okay, thank you, Rick. Anything else from the board? Or we,
Just to clarify, one other option, you said opt out, but you could also opt for the conventional. So,
So Glenn can explain, that, some of the bidders may, submit a pricing for conventional fossil fuel. And people could also, if we chose that supplier would have 100%, 50%, and conventional fossil fuel. So if we chose that supplier, then the individual resident can choose that. If they basically have four options.
four.
They have
That's my point.
100%, 50% fossil fuel at the fixed rate or totally opt out.
Yeah.
So
and
they
go
have
back
four-
to O&R, which they currently have.
Right. Also, Glenn, would you mind going over eligibility?
Sure. So customers, those customers that are currently on just the basic Orange and Rockland monthly variable rate are eligible for opt-out. They'll get the letter in the mail, they'll have that choice, all of the rates will be there, all of the, what you're asking, that their options and will all be described in that letter. Those that already have an alternate supplier, those that are on a low income bill assistance program like HEAP, those that are on an alternate rate, like what's called the time of use rate, it's a differential sort of rate that people can choose. Those people will not get a letter, and they will there's not, the opt-out structure does not apply to them. So that means if they're already on something else that they've chosen, they will not be disrupted or taken off that choice that they've made. So that's the basic way to think about it. And as Michelle is saying, all the option always comes down to the customer, right? So the town is making a choice to launch a program, but the customer always has the choice whether to participate or not, and then which product they'd like to choose.
So question. So say, for example, you're on a alternate programs and you want to get involved in the municipal program. How exactly is a resident going to do that?
Yeah, it's quite easy. They would have to obviously cancel their current. We can't do that ourselves. We can't take them off, but they can call Orange and Rockland and do that.
Right.
You know, and they can, and then they can let us know. And there's really two main ways that they can let us know they want to participate in our program. One is to call. So we have a phone number that we staff, a call center that it's our Jules staff. It's not outsourced. It's our trained folks. And then the second is an online form. There's an online form on the website. It takes 2 minutes. They can put in their name and their account number, and they can opt in.
Okay.
And at that time, they'll be asked which of the options they'd like to participate.
Yeah, and I was just gonna say, this is not a public hearing, but we're gonna allow public questions or comments at this time. Go ahead, Dale.
So, my next question after your question is, if somebody's on an alternate program, how do they even know that this might be a better option for them? To choose,
Great question.
Yeah.
because if they're getting a letter, they may be
Right.
totally unaware.
I think that would be up to us to be able to put some kind of PR out to our residents about these options. And we do have pretty good communication for our residents through TPFYI and our website. So I think that's something that we have to plan on doing. And that's why I asked the question,
Yeah.
so that we know that we have a vehicle to tell other people, including myself, that, how they would be able to do this or even look into it.
Yep.
So, yeah. Good question. Thank
Any
you.
other questions, comments? Okay, I think we're ready then. So I'd like to make a motion to execute the community choice aggregation memorandum of understanding along with the conditional authorization to execute electricity supply agreement. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion?
No?
I think just one thing to add to the resolution, if that's okay, and indicate the default production or product option is CCA blended electricity, 50%. from New York
Okay,
State.
and what he said.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, I pass
Again?
2 more things.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I think we just need to make a motion to appoint me as liaison for the program.
Go ahead and make the well, I'll make the
So
motion.
moved, just say something.
So moved.
Second,
All-
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
What's the other one?
Okay, so every chance we're up here, I just want to repeat to the community kind of where we are on this program. So right now, on Monday during our regular scheduled board meeting, we're going to have somebody, Glenn, I don't think it's you, but it's one of your team members are going to be available to kind of run through this again for the community and be able to answer questions from the community.
Exactly.
And then, one thing I don't know what is on the agenda right now for Monday. I think I know, but I think some things may change.
Yeah,
I
some
had
things
given
may
them a
change.
heads up to kind of be available at 7:30. And I think, so they don't have to sit through all of our business. Does that work with you guys? We can.
Yeah.
It works.
So Glenn, if 7:30 works for whoever is going to come talk to us to be available, that way the public knows 7:30-ish, it'll be CCA time.
Chris, I think it's actually going to be a little bit sooner than that because they're first on the presenters. They're
Oh.
Well,
before.
we were going to have a public hearing.
Yeah, that's going to be after the presentations. We have 2 presentations that night, and then the public hearing is going to be after the presentations. I've seen the agenda.
Yeah, but we scheduled the public hearing for 7.
Okay, well,
So I don't know if we're allowed to delay a public hearing.
Normally, we're not. Yeah, it has to be first on the agenda.
Yeah, that's why so I don't know, what do you guys think? 7 o'clock or 7:30? I mean, it's the public hearing or,
Why don't we do this?
Why don't we-
Can we give him the head, I mean, is it by Zoom? They're coming by Zoom?
Yeah.
So we can call
Well-
them 5 minutes before and tell them to be.
yeah, but I
ready.
want everybody else to know if they got to tune into, if they
Good
only
idea.
care about the CCA, what
Yeah.
time to tune in.
Yeah,
So they don't have to listen to,
I'd say.
I
All
think
the other
that's
times.
seven, 45 would probably be more
7:45 to be safe.
in line.
Okay.
Yeah, if the public hearing happens, yeah.
Okay.
That's the thing, that's dynamic, so that could
I
change.
know, well, we can
before,
fill,
so.
we can take care of the, normal business.
Right. We
And
can
then
always
seven
bump things
45
around, yeah.
stop.
But I would say 7:45 would be the safe bet.
Cause I'll ask TPFY to kind of make that point.
Okay,
Yeah. Right.
sounds good.
Good.
Okay, so 7:45 Monday, CCA. And then on top of that, the other thing we know right now is if everything goes according to schedule, May is when letters would start going out and this would take effect in August. So there's still a long lead time for us to make sure that everybody's aware of what this program is. If the pricing works out, we go forward, but that can be reemphasized again on Monday.
So question,
Yes.
so, I know this is outside of it, but so say it starts in May, so the contract begins in May, or does it begin in May? I mean, when does the
Okay.
contract begin?
In August, yeah. Mhm.
That's what I thought. Just-
People would be switched over in August, but in May is when they would start to get that information and then make a decision.
Okay,
Yep.
Yeah.
And then I'll be sure to talk about it every meeting I attend
Okay.
after,
This-
from now
yeah.
until August.
I think it's a good
Okay,
idea.
Okay, so just, I mean, oh, Glenn, since we're here, can you just talk about the 30-day opt-out?
Yeah, sure. So that letter that we were talking about goes out. It describes all their options, what the rates are, et cetera, gives them the website they can go to and the phone number and everything. That kicks off a 30-day window, right, where they can make that decision and whether or not they want to participate before the program ever starts. But I just want to be clear, they can always opt out anytime thereafter, no penalty whatsoever. There's just a window before the program ever even starts that if they just want to stay on ORU from the get-go, they can do that. Otherwise, they can stay in for a couple months and decide they'd like to jump out then, and it's the same. But that 30-day window just really refers to an opportunity to opt out before the program ever even gets going.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, cool.
I'm done.
All right, so it looks like that will conclude the CCA portion of the meeting. I do have two minor administrative housekeeping agenda items that we need to get done in advance of the purchase.
Thanks again. Thank you. Have a great night.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Glenn.
In advance of purchase of 209 Route 17, I will not present the contract to you guys until we get an appraisal and have an environmental review done. So the environmental review is $2,150 and the appraisal is $2,750. I'd like to make a motion to get these both approved so I can at least get the appraisal done. And that's going to be very important to what happens next if we go into contract or not. So this is a preliminary mechanism for that to happen.
Okay. I just don't know what the environmental review
It's
is.
just to make sure that there's let's see whether there's any specifics on here. Generally speaking, it's environmental site assessment, so it's just to make sure there's no
Like buried
chemicals.
fuel
Yeah,
tank or
fuel
something like
tanks
that.
and stuff like that, and it'll be like a phase one.
Yeah,
environmental
obviously it's
review.
important because for my
Yeah.
bypass property that would
And it's
require.
required
a
by,
Okay,
in every commercial transaction in New York State. So once again, $2,150 for Smith Environmental Services for phase one ESA proposal and $2,750 for CMS Realty Advisors Corporation for the appraisal. I'd like to make a motion to you guys to authorize me to engage these people and pay them. I might add that the money will go back to the town at the
At the
closing
closing,
table,
right.
yeah.
yeah.
So do I have a second?
second.
All in favor?
Fine.
Aye.
Thank you.
Hi.
Thank you, Rick. Okay, I guess anybody have anything else since we're convened?
No, I can give you an update on a couple of things, but,
Sure, please do.
so I have had a conversation with the DOT about, our plans on what we plan to do on revitalization and your efforts to look into buying that property, and if we were to buy that property, how we would want to enhance it to the benefit of economic development for the hamlet, and how we would be looking to them to take a look at putting in a crosswalk for businesses on the east and the west side. They did say that they do prefer parking on the east side. They would prefer parking on the east side, but I did tell them that we have started to talk to the post office about leasing and putting in a parking lot on that side as well. So we just basically have kept up with that in terms of just sliding in to just sort of
Right.
support what
Mhm.
you're up
Yep,
to
yep.
on this side. So
Understood.
that's basically just an update on that.
Okay, yeah, because that's important too, because if Mr. Carlin opens up his building to what his potential project is, the post office won't be enough for him to get a license from the Orange County Department of Health.
Which they understand that, and they would agree that
Yeah.
if there isn't an intent to put a business in, we can then apply for a permit.
Mhm.
But in the current situation with no pedestrian walkways
Right.
and people walking back and forth, we would be denied. So that is why we've sort of postponed applying for those crosswalks, because we have to have a compelling reason as to why we put them in. And business development and aiding our current businesses in being able to have parking for their, clientele is a compelling reason.
Oh, so when
That's
we
great.
have the master plan in hand, that'll be a big
Yes,
ticket item for their decision then.
100%.
Okay, perfect.
Great.
Yeah,
So
good news.
just keep moving things forward. And also, I guess we got the contract approved, so you can now sign the contract for Creighton Manning
Okay,
to do their
perfect.
conceptual plan, and we'll be doing our first walkthrough with them on site on May 10th.
And you're gonna, will you?
I'm
you
gonna
have-
send you all
You
that.
have the contract?
I do.
Okay,
Howard, April 10th, yeah. So, yeah,
This is
Howard has
good.
approved the
good
contract.
timing for all that.
Well, there we are.
Thank you, Deirdre.
You're
I
welcome.
know you've done a lot of hard work on that. Much appreciated.
We all have.
Yeah,
We as the committee.
and especially
has-
Michelle,
Yeah.
you're no longer on
Wouldn't
this
be here
board, but you
without
have
her.
certainly set the path in motion, so we want to help, and you're still helping us now, so that's important too. Chris, anything else? Rick
No.
Marsh, anything else?
Nothing to report.
Bill Lemansky, I see you there. Do you have any comments, questions? Okay, anybody else on Zoom with any comments or questions before we adjourn? Okay, doesn't look like it. With that, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting at 7:40. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you so much for coming, you guys. Appreciate it. Let's see, did you record it here, right?